Hey everybody, it is Friday, June 5th, and you know what that means? That means it is time for the Rittenhouse Fine Art Show. Now, you might not know this yet, but there's a slight difference this year. The difference is if you're walking around Rittenhouse Park, you will see 0 artists there right now. And obviously, we've had to change our format this year. So this year's edition, due to COVID, is a virtual online show. So if you're on here, you know all about it. And we've taken this opportunity now to talk to you about different studios. It's kind of a nice thing this year because we're giving you a glimpse into how artists work and in their mindsets, how their studio, how they operate, how they create. So it's kind of an interesting approach, and hopefully it's something that a lot of folks can learn something about. So let's take a quick glimpse. Before we even get into that, I want to tell everyone, right now we have my beautiful wife Amanda is my camera person, and she's really good at it. If you've ever seen any of my YouTube videos, you know that. And you can ask any questions or leave any comments. Go right through the chat. Amanda will read them, and then she can relay them right to me. Let me know if there's anything you want to know. So if there's something you need to know that I haven't talked about, a question you might have, or anything like that, or ask me about my t-shirt, my sneakers, anything you want, I'm here for you. So all right, so we'll take a quick glimpse. I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. So I am a fine artist. I am a sculptor and a painter. I draw as well. I do pretty much anything I need to do to create and to continue making my living with art. I have been in Philadelphia for roughly 30 years. I have also lived in Prague in the Czech Republic. I spent from 1997 through 1999 there. And I studied with a master stone carver there. And partly what I did there was I really kind of learned a lot of what I do now. I learned a lot of the techniques, a lot of the styles, and a lot of my working methods I learned there. So I love being in Philadelphia. I love being a part of the Rittenhouse Show. I am a member of the board of directors for the Rittenhouse Show as well. So I'm really invested in the show. I love it because not only is Philadelphia a great city and a great art city and a great town, Rittenhouse is the oldest outdoor fine art festival in the country. It's 93 years it's been going on. It started strictly with students hanging work with clotheslines, on clotheslines in the park. So it has a really tremendous history. And one of the things that we want to do is obviously to keep that history alive. We still incorporate students in the show. They're a very big part of the show. And we just want to grow it and grow it. We're a rare show in that we only show original work and we only show fine art. So no functional work. You won't find jewelry or functional ceramics, photography. We are fine arts, painting, drawing, fine art printmaking, fine art glasswork, anything non-functional, just beautiful work. Some of the best artists in the country you'll see at the Rittenhouse Show, and artists come from all over the country, which is really a nice thing about the show. So as you can see, today I'm speaking strictly on sculpting. I'm not going to talk about painting today. Today we're outside. This is my outdoor carving area. I do all of my carving outside. I love working outside. I work outside all weather, summer, winter. I can put a big tent up if it's raining and I need to work outside. If it's cold, I have a big barrel that I put outside to heat myself. So I am always out here working. One of the beautiful things about carving outside is you're not dealing with the issues of dust. You're not dealing with cleaning the dust. You're not wood chips, stone dust, all sorts of things. You're not having to deal with them. So. And it's a healthier environment because one of the byproducts of certain types of stone is the stone dust is not healthy. So there's a lot of silica in a lot of the types of stone. So those are it can lead to silicosis. So you have to wear respirators, masks, and it's working outside. I don't deal with those issues, especially with the marble because there's no silica dust in the marble. So all the white stone that you see here is marble. There's 3 varieties of marble here. I have, these are from Colorado, a quarry in Colorado, the Yule Quarry in Colorado, which is in the town of Marble. I have some Georgia marble scattered in there over here as well. You can see some of my stacks of wood. I have piles of wood all over my property as I let the wood season. This is these are some pieces from Carrara. So this is the Italian marble from Carrara, and that is the marble that is famous for Michelangelo using. So that is Carrara Italian marble. The wood is wood that I source from locally. So these are all locally sourced pieces of wood. They're trees I've taken down, they're trees neighbors have taken down. People will call me and say, I had a tree come down, do you want it? Or I might be driving and I see an interesting piece of wood on the side of the road. I'll ask the owner, hey, can I take that? You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I got a head shake. I thought something bad happened. So I do have my coffee for those of you who tend to follow me. All right. So as you can see, I carve the wood, carve the stone, and then I do a lot of pieces where I combine the 2 materials. And for me, that is something that's developed over the last few years, and I just think they speak together. So they really complement each other so nicely. They're 2 completely different styles of carving. They're 2 different techniques of carving. So you don't see a lot of people that carve both materials. It tends to be a rare thing. I don't know anyone who honestly carves them and puts them together. So one of the important things with sculpture is, you want it to be appealing. You want that aesthetic to work completely in the round. That is the beauty of sculpture, that every angle you look just is a different experience. So it really creates a lot of fun. I also do, and now this, for people that don't know, this is called relief sculpture. So this piece here, the cornucopia back here, in the marble there, and this piece here. Those are called relief. Now relief is sculpture, it's basically on a flat plane sculpture. So you're creating depth from one direction. They're not sculpted on the backside, they're meant to be viewed frontally, and it's a trick to create depth and interest in just a frontal view. So you can take a piece like this here, and it actually started from a piece like one of these here. So you can see how much changes over the course of the working life on that piece. All right, so let me talk a little bit now about, so I work almost completely by hand. I'll use a chainsaw to chunk big sections of trunk out. I might use a sawzall to cut big areas of trunk out as well. Once I pass that, I do almost all of my work by hand. That's how I learned when I apprenticed. In Prague, they worked by hand. It was their tradition. I learned that tradition, and part of my working method is to carry that tradition on. So I find that a bit important, because everything these days has gone to 3D printers. It's gone to CNC machines. And the art of handwork is slowly being forgotten. So that's partly my mission, is I want to keep that going. I want to teach people and continue that along. I also enjoy it. For me, it's a really nice thing that I can basically go anywhere. I can drive with a piece of wood or a piece of stone. I can go off into the woods. I can bring a few chisels, and I can work. That's all I need. I don't need a power source, so I am really mobile. I can really have a quick, easy, flexible studio, and it's pretty zen. For me, carving it's a very zen, very relaxing, enjoyable thing. It's a huge part of my life, so it's really interesting. So I've laid out some of the different chisels that I use here. So all these here with the wood handles, these are my wood chisels. These are chisels that I have to buy because they're very sharp, they're specially made, and you can see there's all sorts of different shapes. I have lots more, I just brought a selection of them out. Now we get into these here, these little more archaic these are my stone chisels, and there's really not a lot to stone carving chisels, believe it or not. A lot of these chisels I make myself, so where I'll just get a piece of steel or a piece of round stock, and I'll heat it, bend it, bang it up a little bit. There's not much to it. These I can resharpen myself with a little grinder just to put an edge on. These have to, you know, I can hone these, but if these need to get worked, these get sent out. These are really expensive. These cost very little. Now over here, these are files or rasps. These are for getting past, and I'll show you as I work. These are for getting from the carving stage to the sanding. This is your step between them. So this is really what'll start to smooth some shape down and really start to get you some nice forms. Again, different types of files and rasps for the different maneuvers you need. You need some big flats, you need some tight little areas, different types of mallets and hammers, brushes, specialty hammers for carving that I'll show you as well with the stonework. So as you can see, you know, every tool has its job, but there's for what I create, it's not a super expansive tool set that I need for this, which is really pretty neat. So all right, what time we got, Mandy? Okay. We'll keep rolling. If you pull down on it, it'll give you the time.
Oh, okay.
Just pull down from the top. See?
It's 12. It's 12:11.
Cool. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions to this point about anything I have going on here? Just type it, and I'll keep moving forward, and Amanda can tell me. So, all right. Let me put this down. All right. Key, you need a really nice strong working table, which I have here. And with the stone and the wood, it's really important you support the piece you're working with. A little more so with the stone. The stone, even though it is it's stone, it's a seemingly stronger material, it's much more fragile to carve than the wood. The wood will take a lot more abuse than the stone will. What'll happen with stone is if you lay a stone across and you work down here, you will crack that stone. It needs to be supported kind of in every little area. It wants to be cradled. It wants to be nurtured, the stone. When you have it somewhere that the support is spread across the entire piece of stone, you have a much better chance of not breaking a piece. Especially when you start to get into things like a piece like this, where you're starting to work with these big open areas here. What happens is if you wanted to start banging on this here, you're gonna break that in a minute. It's not even a question of if, but when. So you really have to learn that, and it takes time. That's the experience you develop as you go. People can tell you it, you can learn it, but until you experience it and you break a few dozen pieces, that's when you say, you know, maybe I got to spend a little more time figuring out how I'm going to move my way around here. But I'm going to start with wood today. Here's a little piece I've been banging on a little bit. So this is just a piece of wood from a tree that came down near me. It was interesting because some of the middle was hollowed out, so it gave me an easy start getting into this piece of wood. Wood's funny because now I've been carving stone a lot longer than I've been carving wood. I've been carving stone since college, so I've been carving stone really since 1990. I have been with wood, say the last 8 or 9 years, really a little bit more with the wood, which I kind of fell into a little more accidentally, but that's a story for another time. The wood, though, the grain plays such an important part of it that even though you know what you want to do with it, sometimes you find some things in the wood that really change the direction you're going to take. Because you can get into a beautiful piece of wood. There could be a big old lag bolt from 30 years ago in there. There could be a nail. There could be an inclusion knot in the middle of the wood as the tree grew. So you can find some things that you didn't know even existed in there. So with the wood, you really need to have the mentality of, hey, I gotta adapt a little bit. What's the matter? You're making
You
a
have
face.
someone watching from Botswana.
All right. Well, listen. What can I say? I love everybody all over the world. So I'm glad to have you. Thank you for watching.
And Ruth really likes her tools.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Thank you. All right. This is a tool I use a lot with carving. This is a little gouge. If you can see, I don't know if you can see it, it's got a little bit of a U shape there. It's about a 1/2 inch gouge. I love this tool. Everybody has one tool that's their favorite. For my carving chisels, this is my favorite. I use this a lot. This is a big material mover for me as well. You can see how it's got a big wide scoop. You can see how much they get used as they get beat up. I'm constantly replacing handles on the wood. Wood chisels, you use a wood mallet. You use a wood mallet, a stone mallet, a metal hammer will beat them up. So if I'm getting into it, I know that...
Kevin has a question.
Yes, what's the question we got?
He says, how much of your work starts with a drawing and how much is more of an organic process of decisions made on the fly?
Oh, good question. Okay, so I will say I start about 50% of what I carve with the drawing. The other 50% I will look at. More of the stone will start from a drawing. The wood, I spend a lot of time looking at each individual piece of wood and finding out what lives inside of it. So the wood tends to be a little bit more of a, what are we going to do with this? And as I go along, it will evolve. The stone tends to be a little bit more of a draw it out, and a lot of times I will draw directly onto the stone with a piece. So, like for instance, this cornucopia. Here, I drew that cornucopia with the flowers. I drew that right on the stone when I was starting. So, kind of, but a lot of these I'll start with drawings. I'm always sketching. I have lots of sketchbooks. This started out of a sketchbook. This idea came out of a sketchbook. So, a lot of them will start through drawing. Some of them, though, will just be right on. What do I see in this piece? So, all right. So now I'm going to get into this. I know that this piece of wood, that the grain is running this way, which means I want to carve that way. If you carve against the grain, you can tear the wood a lot. So it's really just a matter of doing what you would think. It's a matter of banging away. I'm following the grain. I'm watching. Now right in here, I know the grain is going to actually change direction there. So what I'll do, I'll carve this way, and because what happens is, even going with the grain, you can't carve back up again because you will tear. So you'll want to carve down to a low point. Now I stopped here, and what I'll do is then I'll come back and I'll carve back this direction. Now if you do it right, you'll be pretty close right away.
Good thing I got protective glasses on.
It is a good thing. You always wear protective glasses. These are my protective glasses, as you can see. So you're moving a lot with the piece, and then the key to wood carving is extremely sharp chisels. So because this chisel's so sharp, then I can come through here and cut cross grain, which if the chisel's not sharp, you will just tear the hell out of the wood doing that. So now, so for instance, this piece here is, you can look at these tree sections. These are tree slices. So these are all cross grain cut pieces. This piece is all carved cross grain. And you can actually see it because you can see the rings of the tree on this piece. You can see as the tree grew, all the years of the tree. It's really hard to carve a piece when it's cross grain. You're cutting into the end grain like that. It's very hard. It takes an awful lot of time to do that. So that's where you have real sharp chisels. Again, real patient work. The thing with carving is you can't rush the process. It takes as long as it takes. There's no shortcuts. You know, there's tricks you learn to make you faster, but to get to the end, there are no shortcuts to the end. It's just a matter of putting in the time And what happens is, the longer you work, the faster you get, because it just becomes a matter of just having the experience, and like anything, practice, 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 and you will make mistakes along the way. You will break a lot of pieces. You will do pieces where you did not actually achieve what you were trying to achieve, and that's part of it. And that's not bad. That's never a bad thing, because you have to fail. You can't succeed unless you have failed first. It's just it's part of life, but it's part of growing as an artist. It's just, not every piece is going to be your favorite. Not every piece is going to be a huge success. But by doing that piece, you have learned something in creating that piece. So that's really important. So, all right, you've seen this is a good material mover, but then you get into you'll want chisels for specialty times or specialty things. So this is a V. It's a straight V chisel. Now, say I want to do a nice. Just say I want to put a nice deep line in here. Well, if I use the flat chisel, I got to do the one side and the other side, and it's very hard to get them lined up proper. So this is a way that I can come in, so you can get good support. I can come in here. And I can just carve. Now, once I have seated that bottom in there with the V chisel, and you have different size V chisels, you have different angles. Some are 90 degrees, some are less, some are more. Then I can kind of go back in here if I want to flatten that out some more.
Amy's really impressed with your cool tools.
Thank you, Amy. Then I can go back in here. And then I don't have to worry about it. You're always losing bark too. So unless you're keeping the bark, if you're planning on keeping the bark, you got to work around it. So you can see that makes a really nice little kind of deep V in there. So we've seen what some of the chisels can do. It's nothing surprising. Hopefully, it's what you'd expect that they do. Then you can, again, specialty. You want to get clean. You want to do, say I wanted to do, say I was doing hair. Maybe I'd use this chisel to kind of get in and create a hair texture. When you see like that roll Renaissance hair, this would be a chisel to kind of create that kind of look. So again, you're using different tools, different chisels for different approaches. So what I would do at that point, all right, so you get it to a point with your chisel. Your next step in cleaning is what I was talking. That's your file and your rasp. So again, what happens is your hands get really beat up. You especially in the winter. Oh my goodness, your hands get destroyed in the winter. So you get all those little cracks that really hurt. But your hands get very calloused as well. So it's you get hands that become working hands, which is not a bad thing to have. So here we go. So now I would go back in, and you can see obviously it's not chips anymore, but now we're actually making dust. We're making sawdust because it's a finish. It's a finer tool, which is closer to a finished product. One of the tools you use quite a bit is you always use a brush. You have a brush handy. All right, so as you can see, what we started with a little bit more of a rounded valley, and now we have like a nice kind of deep inside corner there. So again, different shape files for different tools. So I want to get down in here. I got this nice little tool that I can reverse, roll it over, and then it helps me kind of start to carve in these interior areas and to file and to remove material. And again, these are really, actually, they're very abrasive, so they're very they're pretty sharp for files and rasps. They're sharp. These are something you also buy. These tend to be very expensive. Actually, I get them from Italy because Italy makes the best files, is what I have found. So these come from Italy. So, again, you want the right tool for the right job. And now, one thing I didn't mention, and I don't know if you've noticed, same files same files get used for stone and wood, as you'll see as I get into the stone a little bit. So they're that sturdy and that durable that these remove stone as well. Okay, got any questions for me, Mandy?
Nope. Some people are saying hello.
Hello to everybody. Thank you for watching and thank you for joining. I wish we were in person, but I'm happy that you folks are getting to stop in and see a little bit of my process here. Okay, actually I gotta grab something out that I forgot to take out. Peruse while I get it.
All right.
So every piece is from a single piece of wood. So these larger pieces are carved from single trunks of wood, and I love seeing what I can do with a single piece. So I don't join pieces together, and I'm not changing the overall shape. I'm starting with whatever nature gave me to start with for each piece. And you see the sun starting to come through, Valhalla?
Tiniest bit.
All right, stay there and I'll show you. I like to try and use light sometimes in some of the stone because it can be translucent. So if you can see
Yeah.
that?
We can see your
Those
finger.
are my fingers.
Uh-huh.
So this is a piece that when the sun really comes behind it, it just glows this whole piece.
It
So
does.
that's something I've been starting to do a little bit more is getting into what light can do through a piece, not just in accenting or highlighting, but through the piece that it's emanating from the piece work. All right, so what I went to get was...
KFN in the house.
Oh boy. Woohoo! Miss that place. Can't wait for it to open. All right.
Do your neighbors hear you working?
All the time, but they love me. I hope. Nobody's complained yet. But I try not to start too early or work too late. If I'm going to work late, I'll tend to go inside and paint in my painting studio. I don't paint out here. This is just for carving out here. And then I do some metal fabrication out here too as well. All right, so once I get done filing and I've done all my filing, now you're also going to leave texture on certain pieces. You're not always going to want to have everything super smooth, as you'll see. You know, sometimes you want to find some natural parts that you just find really beautiful, some pieces of wood. Sometimes you'll want to leave some carved texture. Every piece kind of calls out and tells you what it wants to be, leaving some of the natural look. So for instance, this piece of wood, what drew me to this piece of wood was this beautiful crack that ran through it. And to me that was going to be a real focal point on that piece, because it was just a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of nature there. So you don't have to smooth everything all the time. So, but when I've done my filing, the next step I go to is I will go to a sandpaper. I start with a very heavy aluminum oxide resin cloth paper. It's a 36 grit, very abrasive, very, very durable. Again, now, same kind of thing. I'm starting here, again. Again, like I said, your hands can take a beating. And it's funny because people will equate size to price, and that's not really true when it comes to carving. The smaller pieces can take a lot more time than bigger pieces. So when you have a piece say like this or like this or like land shark here, where you have big openings, these are easier to get into these areas. You know, even though it's a bigger piece in general, it's easier to navigate around when you start getting the pieces like Dreamcatcher here, and you're starting to get into these really tight little nooks and crannies. It becomes harder. It becomes harder to work. Even though the piece is smaller, it takes more time. So again, size and price don't necessarily equate, and a lot of people want to put them together. Oh, this piece is smaller, so it must be a lot cheaper, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. So, and that's something when you're just starting out as an artist, you don't know. You know, you might start pricing stuff incorrectly because you're like, oh, it's a small piece, and you'll say you'll do a commission and you'll only want to charge somebody this many dollars because you're thinking it's a small piece. And before you know it, you have spent so much time, you wind up making like $4 an hour on it. So, you know, those are lessons learned by working and just experience again. So again, here we go. Just taking that to the next step. Take the brush. That would be, you know, and it's still rough when it's at a 36. You know, and then you'll start moving up here, so I can step up to 100 from there. So now you're starting to get into a real smooth, a real fine piece of wood there. Now there with the 100, it's pretty smooth. I tend to usually go to about 200 with the wood. I don't need to go higher than that. My work's not about a super finish, a super high polish finish. I have buddies that their work is, and it's phenomenal. It's just not what I do. I'm not saying to do it any different is better or worse. It's just we all have our own unique approaches to what we're trying to do. So that's a little bit about wood carving. Nothing too groundbreaking. It's not rocket science, so to speak. It's just practice, learning, and the vision. You want to have some vision and be able to see things in every piece of wood. They really do speak to you as you're going. So, all right, I'm gonna move off of wood. Anybody questions?
18 more minutes.
Okay. So, I'm going to put this aside. I am actually going to make this into something. So, there we go. Now, let's talk stone. Now, you've seen some of the chunks I have just laying around here. And just to give you an idea of how much the stone weighs, this piece here, about 120 pounds, just that little piece. So, some of these are 3,000-4,000 pound pieces, some of these bigger ones down there. I actually had to crane them up over my carriage house to get them back here. We brought a crane in to do that, to get them all here. Okay, this is a piece I had been working on, and I'm recarving. This is a piece of marble. Marble is mostly calcium carbonate, so that's why there's no silica dust. It's a calcium-based stone. You can breathe it. Not that you want to like breathe it, or you're not going to like snort lines of marble dust. But if you did, you might get sick. But your body can flush it out. What happens is your body can break that calcium down and flush it out of the body. The silica dust, it gets into your lungs. Your body can't. It sits in your lungs. It never goes away. And that's why all those old carvers from back in the day, hundreds of years ago, throughout history, they'd get something called silicosis, where their lungs basically slowly fill up with silica dust and they can't breathe anymore. So you suffocate from the inside. So if you're working with limestones or granites, it's really important to wear a mask and such like that. So these stone chisels have not changed in hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. These are pretty much exactly what Michelangelo would have been carving with, Bernini, any of those guys. You're going to start with a point. Point chisel's always going to be your starting point. Well, not always, but it's going to be your starting point. Now, if you see, you move to, now there's different sizes. I have 1 pound, this is a 1 pound, I have 1 pound, 2 pound, depending on what you're trying to do. with stone, wood you can work out from the middle. Stone, you always want to work in, because if you work out, you're going to blow out sections of stone. So, and the stone is going to be, oh, that's that lantern bug. Okay. The stone, you're going to be more aggressive with.
Ooh. Hitting your filmer.
What's that?
You're hitting me.
Sorry, camera woman, person, camera gal. Now, that's coming off a little easy there, because if you can see the green in here, you see that little bit of green? This stone is a little weathered down here. So what happens is moisture can get into stone, kind of like the same way like ice will get in and crack up sidewalks and roadways and such. And not that it necessarily cracks it up, but it weathers it. And what you'll get, because you see right here, that was a vein. And the stone kind of I call it sugaring, where the stone gets a little soft. You see it right there? There you go. So that's kind of like that. So basically, a stone like this might have it in for like an inch or so, and then you get past it where the stone stiffens up a little bit. So now when you get the veins in the stone, so with the veins in the stone, they're quartz that's running through the calcium. That's what makes the veining in the marble, these lines of quartz. What can be difficult to deal with there is the quartz is harder than the white. So the veins are harder than the white. So often, if you're not watching when you're sanding, they'll sand at different rates, so you'll get a little bit of rise there. So you have to be very careful to keep things nice and even and smooth. It's easy to start messing up a little bit when you get into that. So, all right. So the point chisel is what you're going to want to use, and we go to 45, Mandy. You know that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You're at 37.
The point chisel is what you want to use. This is going to be your big material mover. To rough out shape, you're going to use that point. Now, there we go. So there's a vein right there. There we go. See, it's starting to get harder there, because really, it's once you get past this line. So, this moves material. Then from there, I didn't even bring any tooth chisels out. Again, you have different shaped chisels. You have flats. You have some little rounded edges you can do. A real neat tool that's specific to stone as opposed to wood is these are called, this is a tooth hammer. I don't know how well you can see it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a baby meat tenderizer. I guess, as a 30-year vegetarian, my knowledge of meat tenderizers is seriously lacking. But anyway, this is a great way, one, to even out materials. So if you want to get a base of a piece nice and straight, you'll use this to even high spots. It's also a great way to make texture. And if you can see, I'm really very aggressive with how I'm hitting on it. But what it's doing is it's evening out this area of the stone where I just had kind of dug some carve into it. Tell you what, you get really big forearms, or at least one. Like you have like chicken arm and like Popeye arm. So, all right. Okay. So here we go. So you can see, gives you an idea of what that stone chisel does. The tooth hammer. I'm sorry. So there we go. So again, you want to get in. Again, you want a little more detail. You want to do some. You're going to use a nice flat. You're going to get in there. So some of the processes are similar. Some can be a little bit different. Overall, it's a slower material to work with, the stone. I love it. I love the stone. I love the wood, but the stone is my first love. So I always will have that affinity for the stone.
So Anna wants to know, how do you join the wood and the stone?
Okay, good question. So Anna, what I do, some of the pieces will be permanently attached. The smaller pieces, what I'll do is I'll drill the hole each way, I'll pin it, and then I'll epoxy it. What I'll do for the bigger pieces is I still do the drill and pin, but I don't epoxy them. And that way, if somebody needs to move them, I need to move them, or if I'm going to ship them, it's much easier for me to ship them as two separate pieces. I can crate them separately, and it's much easier. And they're all balanced that they would stay anyway, but yeah, the drill and pin works really well. And then sometimes with certain pieces, like my owl here, I don't know if anybody can tell, this is my owl. Owls can turn their heads all the way around. That's part of one of the really cool things. So this piece is pinned, but it was really important to me that it would spin on that axis, because he needs to be able to look all over from his perch here. So he spins all the way around, and every day he's different. So in my mind, you're getting 360 sculptures for the price of one if you turn them 1 degree every day. So it's a really good deal.
That's great.
All right, so how much time we got?
Not much. You've got 3 minutes.
All right, real quick. Same files, same process, same result. The files will go in, and remove material. Same papers as well. Then I would start with the 36. You spend a lot more time sanding with the stone. It's a slower process. I'm going to do a video of, I don't have time today, but I'm going to do a YouTube video of what happens when you make some bad mistakes on stones, ways to work around mistakes you've made. So that's something that I will do a video of in the future. So a couple things on my way out. I wanted to thank everybody for all the support we've gotten. Everyone has been so wonderful. It's a really hard time for artists because many of us just make our living through art. So for a lot of us, there's no unemployment insurance. There are no safety nets. So we have great family support, like my wife, who's awesome, and luckily she's still working for us. Woohoo! And we have gotten, the art community has gotten so much support through so many people that reaching out and buying work and doing everything they can to help artists. So as you can see, my studio is 13 Degree Studios. My website, 13degreestudios.com. I am out of Philadelphia, great city. Hold on, 13degreestudios.com.
Don't bend. Don't bend.
Oh, there we go. I also have a YouTube channel. You should check it out. I'm going to tell it to you. It's my name. It is C-A, my last name, Buonomo. You can get the spelling from Facebook, which you're on, or on the website. Subscribe. I do a lot of videos, painting videos, sculpture videos. The other channel you have to subscribe to, because a lot of these sessions, the Zoom sessions, and some of the other sessions are going to be posted, is the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art YouTube channel, which we just set up recently. One of the board members, she set it up, and it's a great new channel for us. So Rittenhouse Square Art YouTube channel, check that out. Check out my website. Follow me on Instagram. Again, C-A Buonomo, B-U-O-N-O-M-O. I am always looking for new people to share my experiences with. Reach out anytime. You ever have questions, comments, you want anything? I love all of you. I thank you all for watching. I really had a good time. It makes up for not having the show, being able to spend some time with you today like this. So I love you. Thank you. Bye, everybody.